Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week? In an article from NBC News written by Angela Yang, we learned that Illinois passed the country's first law protecting child influencers last week. Illinois' new law set to take effect next July mirrors California's Coogan Act, which was passed in 1939 to protect the earnings of child performers and has inspired similar laws in other states. Content creators in Illinois must set aside a portion of any earnings from videos, including the likeness, name, or photograph of the minor in a trust for them to access upon adulthood, according to the law. The percentage of earnings allocated is based on how heavily that minor is featured in the content, including in stories told about them without necessarily showing their image. Creators who fail to meet this criteria can be sued for damages, but the bill does not provide a government enforcement mechanism, meaning compliance and legal action is left up to individual families. High school student Shreya Nalamathu, whom State Senator David Kohler credits with coming up with the idea behind the legislation, said she's pleasantly surprised at how quickly the bill moved through the legislature since it was introduced this February. She said, quote, "I know that it's not 100% perfect, and I wasn't expecting that it was going to do it, but I didn't want an obsession with it being perfect to stop real progress being made, because this is the first step, and I'm just excited to see child influencing being legitimized and on the books," end quote. So, Daquon, I wanted to ask you, do you think that there should be wider protections for child influencers?
Absolutely. I think that influencing is this kind of Wild West right now. It's relatively new. It's been growing so much in the past decade. And so now is the time to really look at it, create legislation to make sure that there is not exploitation in this industry, which unfortunately we know happens a lot. I think that as somebody that creates videos online, when you are putting out videos, even if you're not the one editing it, even if you're just kind of in the background of a video, it requires a lot of vulnerability. And I don't think that that is something that is talked about enough. You are showing your life to millions of people potentially, letting them see the inner workings of your household, letting them understand what you go through on a semi-daily basis, especially with a lot of these like family vloggers and daily vlogger channels. So that can open up a lot of discourse that most people don't have to deal with. You don't have millions of people commenting on how you live your life. And so, especially for someone who is young and impressionable, that can be a lot. And we need to make sure that these children influencers are given protections to make sure that they're not only mentally sound, but also financially sound. Because we know that influencing has become a very lucrative career for many. And so you have families who are making millions of dollars, if not more, off of these kind of family style videos and videos about their children, even if the children are not present. So these children are essentially actors. They are actors in this family vlog show. And like child actors, there needs to be protections for them financially to make sure that they're not being exploited by their families, because it's a lot of work that goes into it. Not only the vulnerability, but there are also so many minors who are running their own channels, who are creating videos, who are editing videos themselves, who are doing a lot of work when it comes to what needs to be done to create a successful production. And they deserve to be compensated for their time. So I absolutely believe that there needs to be wider protections for children. But I'll pass the question back to you, Andre.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think that these protections are long overdue, considering how long family vloggers have been using their children to curate content since the very start of YouTube and social media sharing sites. I think a lot of the reasons why these protections have taken so long to come into these lawmaking conversations is because for so many years, we as a society devalued content creation as a legitimate business venture. It was always brushed aside as some silly thing that people did and that there was no real money in the industry. And, maybe at one point in time, content creation for sites like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and other social media sites may not have been particularly lucrative. But we found out quite rapidly that content creators and influencers have entered the same level of fame, financial success, and recognition as traditional celebrities. One promotional post or product launch from some of these influencers could literally propel a business from the red into the black or sell out their entire stock in a matter of days, even hours. And the unfortunate reality is that in every industry, the exploitation of unpaid labor will always find a way into those spaces. It's just the way of capitalism. There are abusive content creators out there who have had children for the sole purpose of creating a new revenue stream for their content. They'll document their children's entire lives, film them crying, being punished, pranking them, all for the sake of dollar signs. There are countless stories of children who have grown up in these types of environments where they have begged their parents not to film them or just simply didn't want to participate, and their parents not only ignored their request but forced them to continue doing it. And in those situations, these children very rarely see a penny of that revenue that their parents have made using their likeness, personality, and actions. And even sadder than that, like you just said too, Daquon, not every person can or wants to handle the spotlight. Being a person in the public eye, whether that be as a traditional celebrity or as a content creator, is not an easy path. It's one filled with a lot of doubt, uncontrollable variables, and a level of scrutiny from the public eye that can destroy a person's self-worth. It can be a vicious industry that will eat you alive if you haven't come prepared with your, fighting gloves. Now, while I'm sure that there are certain people like myself and probably like Daquon who have always dreamed of being, an actor or a writer or performer when they were growing up, and that simply is not the dream everyone has. Some people are happy with having a practical career, not being accosted by fans day in and day out, and living out a simple, normal life. And those dreams are just as valid as the ones that are filled with glitz and glam, and they should be respected as well. I think it's the job of every parent to listen to their child when they tell them that they are uncomfortable with something, and to let their child have a voice when it comes to the dreams they have for their lives. More than that, though, I personally believe that until your child can vocalize and fully understand what it means to be in the public eye, I don't think they should be made to participate. Yes, they may have to accompany their parents in their ventures and such like that, but I still think that it's the parents' job to keep their child as protected as possible in those spaces so that their child can decide for themselves whether or not this is the life they want. But Daquon, this brings up an interesting question too. I wanted to know, what are your thoughts in general on family vloggers who put their children in their content? Do you think that the practice itself is generally, wholesome, or is it exploitative always?
I used to be somebody that was pretty neutral, kind of leaning positive towards family vloggers and family channels. But I've realized that as I've gotten older, I've gotten more jaded on that type of content because I realize just how exploitative it is on a basic level. Like you said before, these children are being shoved a camera in their face at such young ages where a lot of them can't really vocalize that, hey, I don't want to be on camera, or hey, I don't want to be a part of this in any way. Because let's be real, these are children. They're going to do what their parents say because they are the parents. And so there can be a lot of pressure put onto these children, especially if it's a family where the content is their source of income. It's like, if we don't have content, we can't put food on the table. And that's a huge burden for a child to bear, to be like, I have to do this so that my family can eat and survive and have all these nice things. And I also think that there's the aspect of a lot of times you don't really know what goes into something until you're older. It's like, it's frustrating when you're a child, and it's like, you'll know when you get older. You'll understand when you get older. And it's like, no, I can totally understand. I'm not like stupid or anything. And you realize, oh, when you get older, there is a lot that changes. You know, your brain develops, and when them chemicals start balancing, it's like, all right, like there's a lot that I didn't realize. And so as a child, it may seem so great to have this kind of glamorous lifestyle. You have a nice house, you get recognized, you're basically a celebrity. And a lot of children, that is something that they want because they only see the positives of it. They only see all of the good parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so after they get into this lifestyle or this career path, then they're like, oh, there's a lot of things that aren't as glamorous
Yeah.
as it seems.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't go to Walmart without getting recognized. I have all of these people commenting on my appearance, my body, XYZ. And there's also the unfortunate aspect that a lot of child focused content is just opening the door for all different types of predators and groomers and all different types of people like that to have access to that content and almost get access to that child. Sometimes actually get access to that child. So I nowadays lean more towards that child content and family content in general is pretty exploitative most of the times. There can be some cute and wholesome moments, sure, but at the end of the day, it's really hard for a child to make an informed decision and a unbiased decision on whether they want to be a part of this content conglomerate of a family plan. So it's a really sticky situation because even if they say they want it, are they saying it because of the pressure? Are they
Yeah.
saying it because they only see the positives? It's a mixed bag. So that's why I lean more exploitative.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, I wasn't brought up in a family that was in the spotlight. But one of the things I appreciated about how my mother raised me was that she tried her best not to push her ideas of what she wanted my career path to be onto me. I was able to come into acting and writing organically because my mother gave me this space to explore those ventures on my own. From there, I was able to discover the ups and the downs of being in a creative career path over time and was able to decide for myself what I wanted to do with my life. Now, I don't think that all family vloggers are bad. I do think that there may be some performers who just happen to be born in a family where they are able to get a head start, you know? Like, had I been born in a family of established actors or performers, I may have been able to get way further ahead in my acting and writing career than I am now, simply due to the volume of opportunities that would be available to me because of who my parents are. And I do believe that there are some parents who do use a percentage of the money they make with their children to invest it back into their children's futures, you know, via college funds and trusts or savings. Now, even though I don't believe that family vloggers are inherently exploitative, I think that for some families, vlogs have the potential to be, you know, a very wholesome way for them to bond and have fun together. However, we just can't ignore the fact that there is just as much potential for it to be dangerously exploitative and abusive, which is why there needs to be laws protecting children in these situations. We'd love to believe that every parent of every child has the best interests of their child at heart. In an imperfect world, that would be ideal. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world where children are among the most vulnerable class of people when it comes to laws governing and protecting them. For every loving and careful mommy or daddy blogger looking to set their child up for success, there is also a narcissistic, abusive one using their child to create a comfortable life for themselves alone. For every thoughtful and caring family channel where everyone is having a good time, there is also the family that has forced their children to be nothing more than another tool to bring them money and success. There is always the other side of the metaphorical coin, which is why we should always stay vigilant in protecting the voices of the voiceless. Because pretending bad people don't exist, you know, doesn't stop them from doing bad things to others. You know what I mean, Daquon?
Yeah, I totally agree. We have to make sure that we are being proactive
Yes,
so
that's a
that we
great
are not
word. Yeah.
reacting to so many situations, because we've seen family vlog channels, they go down that pipeline of family vlogs. They
Mm-hmm.
take the turn onto pranks. Those pranks become abuse and it
Mm-hmm.
traumatizes the children. There are so many child actors and child vloggers and child
Coming out, talking about,
influencers.
telling their stories. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Or, I mean, even just some of the kids doing like reaction videos and stuff like that. There's so much that they went through behind the scenes that now we get to see because they're able to speak their truth without being under those pressures of their family or whoever is creating that channel. And so it's something that we just need to get ahead of. In
Yeah.
fact, we're already behind it. We need to do more
Exactly. We need to
catch
catch up.
up.
But I do love what you said, though, the idea of being proactive instead of reactive. It shouldn't take these stories coming out for people to have recognized that, oh, there is a danger in letting children basically working unpaid labor. And I think that even
Right.
when we talked about this a little bit before with like AI, it's like we need to
Mhm.
be proactive now before it starts to become dangerous, because we already know there's a potential for danger in AI. And the fact that we haven't been proactive in trying to create those protections now opens the door for a lot of dangerous situations to come up in the future. So I fully agree with that. I think that we need to stop being so reactive in our lawmaking and more proactive in trying to protect people.
Period.